Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I do want to discuss the idea with Justin Fields right now. I think that not what you think. I don't want you to jump like
Starting
that.
him? Starting him.
No. I'm talking
Trading
about
Russell
like
Wilson.
chill out, calm down, calm down. We can't trade Russell Wilson. The deadline's over. But I think the thing was is when Justin Fields started, he looked pretty good. But I think initially, whenever he got benched, and I was in uproar, a lot of Steeler fans were in uproar. We saw Justin Fields as consistent and he was winning us games. So why would we start Russell Wilson, who hasn't played a game yet? And I think we were basing that a lot on what we saw in Denver. And even last year's Denver performance by Russell Wilson wasn't that bad. It was that 2022 Russell Wilson that looked pretty horrendous. I mean, no one really likes to talk about it that much. And I don't even really think that we talk about it that much, but he didn't have terrible numbers last year. And he ended up getting benched because of some weird salary thing that I don't really remember at the top of my head why, but they benched him for a reason for the last 3 games of the season, just to cut him in March for him to come to Pittsburgh. And I think Russ still has it. And I think that the idea, and I want to apologize because I was really on the idea that I think it was really dumb long-term for Justin Fields to be benched. But it seems that Justin Fields is okay with being the backup because he knows that eventually he will start. Now, we don't know how soon that will be, but eventually he will start. And we've seen what he can do. And he is a very reliable source as a backup. And I think that if Russ, God forbid, went down, I would trust in Fields. And it's good to be able to trust in your backup and your possible future. And what better quarterback for Justin Fields to develop behind than Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champion who's been to the Super Bowl twice. And I think long-term, it actually makes a lot more sense now looking at the bigger picture because Russell Wilson over the last 3 games has looked really, really good. Now, in that Jets game, which I got to witness and we talked about it, did not look good at first. And then he started coming together. I feel like he was underthrowing some balls, but catches were being made. At the end of the day, though, he won the game and he did it in style. It was back-to-back 30-point weeks. One week it was with Fields. The other week was with Russell Wilson. This offense looks crazy. Okay. And then you go up against the Giants and you struggle a little bit, but Russell Wilson still holds his own. The Giants are just really weirdly good on the road. They really like to play tight games on the road, but when they're at home, they look weird. I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going on with the Giants, but if they could figure out how to close games, they would probably be like 8-2 right now, not 2-8. So, but that's besides the point. When it comes to Russell Wilson, I think he looks really good. And I think that he really wants to win here. And this team looks very different. And by different, I mean, over the last couple of years and probably, and by different, I mean, after Ben got hurt in 2019, I feel like that 2-year period with Ben, even when we went that undefeated 12-0 in 2020, I didn't think that Ben looked the same as he did in 2018 and 2017 and 2016. And then we had some weird years for those 2 years. And then we had Kenny in 2022 and we had Kenny in 23 with the Mason, the whole kerfuffle that we had last year. And now this year, it's a very different situation because Russ looks good. Russ is playing good. Team is rallying around Russ. The defense is looking solid. Yes, even with the injuries, like Alex Highsmith just got hurt over the weekend, and now he will not play against Baltimore this weekend. However, I still trust in this team that even though Highsmith is hurt, that the other players will be able to rally and be able to win against the Ravens at home. So what I'm trying to say is from the Steelers' perspective, I think the quarterback situation was what we needed all along. I think after Ben got hurt and was out for the season in 2019, I think that probably should have been the end of an era, in my opinion. But I'm glad that things worked out the way that they did, because if Ben would have retired after that season, we wouldn't have had the Kenny Pickett experiment. We probably wouldn't have had all of these different things. And I think everything worked out perfectly because we ended up with Russ and Justin Fields. And long term, there was a report that I read that talked about they wanted to try to find a way to keep both of the quarterbacks by the end of the season, which would be really interesting because if they kept Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for another year or two, is Russ that short-term ideology to try to win you the Super Bowl, and then Justin Fields is that long-term longevity player to get you for the next 10 years? So I don't know, but it is fascinating to see that they're really investing in these quarterbacks. And I mean, I wasn't really high on the Mike Williams trade, but he looked like he had one big boom play that ended up being very big for us in that Washington game on Sunday. But for me, I think coming off of the Giants win, going on the bye and coming back to Washington and winning in Washington, even though you won by 1 point, still nonetheless winning that game 28-27 is a big statement win for the entire league. Because initially the Steelers, yeah, you're beating the Jets, you're beating the Giants. Russell Wilson, oh yeah, he beat the Jets and the Giants. So those teams are like, well, Jets are like kind of like low, middle low, and then Giants are like low. And then and then Justin, and then like the Steelers really haven't played like a lot of teams. And so this now is the big challenge for Russ. And this is a great statement win for Russell Wilson to beat Washington in Washington and have that momentum going into the Baltimore game on Sunday. Now, his biggest challenges now will be over the next 5 or 6 weeks, because he has, I don't know the schedule off the top of my head, but I think it's Baltimore, Cleveland.
You have 2 against Cincinnati.
Yeah, you guys, then Cleveland again, and then Philly's in there somewhere. Like Philly is, we play all of our conference games or all of our division games, and I'm going to try to name this off the top of my head if I can. You have Baltimore, then you play Cleveland on Thursday night, and we always struggle against Cleveland on Thursday night. Could Russ reverse that? Then you play, I believe, Cincinnati the following week, and then you play Cleveland at home, and then you play Philly, and then you play Kansas City on Christmas. And we also play Baltimore again in there somewhere.
You play us again somewhere too.
No, we play you at the end of the season. That game isn't scheduled.
Oh, is it the last game? Okay.
Yeah, and then Baltimore, I think we play maybe after Kansas City or somewhere in between there. Either way, like we've got a long stretch here, because like we've got Cleveland at home on December 8th. We've got Cleveland away on next Thursday. We got Baltimore this Sunday. We've got another Baltimore game, somewhere in there. So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot to be said with what Russ can do. And if Russ can cook against those teams and stuff like that, I mean, obviously I don't expect us to be perfect, but I'm pretty confident right now this team, if I was to bet, I would be betting on the Steelers right now to do really well. Just against the
Super Bowl, or just
a deeper playoff run, I would say, just because, well, first of all, looking at it from the perspective that I'm looking at it, I think the Steelers can win the division. I think they can. Baltimore right now poses their only big threat. Mm-hmm. And if we can keep the consistency that we are, I think we can beat Baltimore twice. I think we might struggle away in Baltimore, but I think we can win at least at home in Baltimore, against Baltimore. We do struggle away on Thursday night against Cleveland, but I don't think that Cleveland should pose too much of a threat. And when it comes to Cincinnati, no offense to you guys, but I think that if our defense can contain your offense, I think our offense can run circles around your defense. I mean, we did it last year. I think we can do it again. And that's no offense. I really don't disrespect the Bengals.
We suck.
But those are, and that's home and away. So that takes up most of the rest of your schedule. The Eagles, I think, might be a big issue, but I'm not sold on losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. Everyone might think I'm crazy, but you're playing in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day at home, and Kansas City has looked very shaky. They got really lucky against the Broncos. I'm not sold on them. I really think that the Steelers can finish out pretty strong. And I think there are some teams that are going to give them some trouble in the playoffs. I think Buffalo will give them immense amount of troubles depending on what the seeding looks like. If Buffalo has a 1 or a 2 seed and Pittsburgh has to go to Buffalo, that might be problematic. But if Buffalo has to come to Pittsburgh, it might be a different story. It's really all about the seeding. And I really think that if the way that it works, I think that this could be the year that the Steelers finally win a playoff game. And it makes me happy because I haven't seen them win a playoff game since I was in middle school, high school, maybe my freshman year of high school. Like, that's crazy. Like, that is disappointing. They haven't won since the Obama administration. And if you put it in that way, we have gone through now the Trump administration, the Biden administration, and now we're going to go through another Trump administration starting next year. And if they still haven't won a dang playoff game, that is really disappointing. So We'll see. But I think that this could be the year that we can make a push, because I think that although the AFC is sneaky good, I think that there are some teams that aren't as like, I feel like the Steelers are competitive, more or less. I think Kansas City, although their record is good, I don't think they're a powerhouse. I think Baltimore or I think Baltimore's really good. I think Buffalo is a powerhouse. And I know I'm not talking much about the Texans, but CJ Stroud hasn't looked to that optimal point, and they've had a lot of weird wide receiver injuries. So that might hurt them this season. Next season might be different. I was really high on Houston this year, but might be a little different. But I think that this, out of any year for Pittsburgh, I think this could be the year that you do a deep playoff run. Do you win the Super Bowl? The NFC looks pretty hot. I'm not going to lie. Detroit looks really dang good. I don't know if I would want to play Detroit in the Super Bowl, to be honest. But then again, I wouldn't be disappointed if we lost the Lions in the Super Bowl, because then the Lions fans would be happy they would win a Super Bowl for the first time ever. So I don't know, but we'll see. I don't want to jump. I mean, we're still early in the season. We still got a lot of division games left. We have no idea how the rest of the season is going to pan out. The way that it looks right now, it looks good. But the one thing that does concern me, nobody's talking about it. TJ Watt's expecting a baby in February. And you know when the Super Bowl is? February. So guess
that
who?
baby,
Baby
gonna come early.
I hope so, because if the Steelers are making that deep playoff run, he may not be around for the Super Bowl.
Do you want it to come early, like during the playoffs?
I mean,
because if it comes in January, that'd be during the playoffs.
Well, it's not gonna come that early. The expected date's February, so I would, if it happened in like late January or early February, if it happened in your championship game, I would take my chances in the AFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. Would you rather lose in the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl? I'd rather lose in the AFC Championship, because we didn't make it to the Super Bowl. I feel like losing in the big game is a lot more. I don't know. You've gone through it more recently.
I don't know. They both sucked.
You've gone through. Yeah, I was going to say, have you gone through it more recently? Which one hurt you the most?
I cried both times.
Okay. Well, which one did you cry harder about? Like, I don't know.
Super Bowl. I cried more about the Super Bowl.
Okay. Well, there you go. So I would much rather lose in the AFC Championship, be very disappointed, than lose in the Super Bowl and be even immensely disappointed, because we made it. And I don't know when we're going to make it there again, you know?